Oh, is it that time again? Ah, a polycore upload. Yes. This happens to be the first installment of the Polycora Artist Interviews podcast, or series. I mean, I don't know what to call it. But this is the first episode. And today we have a lovely guest, Forhill. And the following is going to be the interview with him. Please enjoy. Alright, so I've been a fan of yours since I think 2018. And I think Odyssey was probably the first track I heard. I'm just kind of interested in your creative process, and I mean, your music has just been generally inspiring in my life. But
Thank you.
so you're part of the ChillSynth community. We're all part of the ChillSynth community. Me, you, people like Eagle Eye Tiger, Admo, who's the father of the community. So, I mean, ChillSynth is a general term for sort of the genre nowadays that's featured on electronic gems. But every artist has their unique sound, so I'm wondering what you would consider your musical style, more specifically.
For sure, yeah. That's a tough one. I've thought about it. I think initially, I had a pretty clear vision, like that all the stuff that was on my on that Figments album. I really kind of knew, like, okay, I want to pursue this sound akin to the songs that inspired me were really like that Emil's Mega, Space Echo, and then Odling's Ascend, obviously Space Echo, Allison's track. So I really wanted to pursue that specifically. But after the album came out is when I kind of started wondering, like, where do I really want to take this? I feel like it's been back and forth between some real synth wavy influences and otherwise, like maybe like chill wave. But I don't. It's weird trying to analyze, my own music and say what is that sound. It's really just like low synth wave with I really try and lean into the lo-fi a little more, pulling some ambient textures. It's somewhere in that realm.
Yeah. So do you like draw on any other people in the community for inspiration, or anyone like we wouldn't expect, maybe some obscure artist that we don't know about?
Yeah, so I mean, there's early on, like I said, definitely some guys in the community, but I think as time's gone on, I've pulled less from that, and more from outside stuff. I mean, electronic wise, some big influencer for me, I think Tycho is probably pretty clear one that people usually pick up on. But also Carbon-Based Lifeforms was huge, getting me into electronic music, and they really lean into the kind of spacey ambient vibe. And then probably the other big one would be Blue Sky Black Death, who they're a producer duo who did like hip hop beats, but very ambient style. But they did this album Noir back in like 2011 that pulls in a ton of shoegaze influence. And I think if people went and checked that out, there'd probably be similarities in vibe and that you could just probably start hearing throughout my stuff. And then, I mean, probably the most out there influence on some of my work is one of my favorite bands, Counterparts. They're really more like a post-hardcore metal kind of vibe. But there's snippets from some songs where, I don't know, I pull inspiration from it, but it's not like you could point to any track that's like, oh, this is a one-to-one, because the genres are so different. But I find that kind of their sound and their style very inspirational. At least, I'll listen to them and instantly be generating ideas for just different vibes I want to try and capture in a song.
Yeah, those are very interesting. I think you showed me Carbon-Based Lifeforms a little while ago, and I really like that, actually.
Yeah, I try and show everyone that. I feel like they're not as well known, I think, as they should be. Everyone's talks about, it seems, Aphex Twin Boards of Canada, but I think, especially for this spacier shit, I think a lot of people would probably be into him if they gave him a chance.
Yeah, and Tycho, of course. Everyone loves Tycho. I'm sure everyone has, listened to Weather, and then they listened to Simulcast, and some people were pleased that he took out the vocals, but I was kind of just interested in like how he approached these two albums. But anyways,
Yeah.
enough about Tycho. I'm curious about when you first were developing your musical skills. Was that sort of were you one of those kids that, their mom like made them take piano lessons, or maybe you just listened to music as a kid and eventually you wanted to, idolized those artists you listened to and eventually wanted to try something? Like, how did that...
I've always been into music. My dad, he plays guitar. He was always huge into it. So I got into, like, my first band I was really into was Black Sabbath when I was just a kid in elementary school. I loved that shit. But I started playing saxophone in elementary school, and then junior high was like started learning bass, started learning guitar. So it was my parents always encouraged it. My dad comes from a family of all professional, like my professional musicians. My grandfather was made a living as a jazz bassist, so it's pretty ingrained in the family. So got a lot of support, but I really chose to pursue it. I played in jazz band in junior high school, took music theory courses. There was a few years there where I wanted to continue on and go to college for music even. And I always had the idea of, hey, it would be awesome to write and make my own stuff, but at least at the time, I didn't know of any avenues to do that, to record beyond just having, a little 4-track at home, making some loops with, different guitar parts, record some acoustic, that kind of crap, but nothing really serious until later on.
All right. So, did you try it sort of, casually and like not really looking to get anything out of it, but just curious? Was that how it was before?
In terms of, what do you mean? Like,
when you were just messing with the, 4-bar loops, or, maybe a DAW or VSTs.
Yeah, so I didn't even know about what the hell a DAW was until like senior year of high school. Before that, it was really just for, I'd come up with guitar riffs. I was really into, like I said, Black Sabbath, like a lot of guitar driven music. So it was, just come up with some guitar riffs, record a bass line under it. I had a drum machine that would just, put a pretty standard rigid drum beat behind it, and it was fun just to say, hey, I came up with this. But because of the structure of that recording, it was never beyond the loop. I wasn't able to, break it out into, here's your A and B section, a bridge. So I never dug into the songwriting deeper. It was really just kind of exploratory, just fun to make. Record something, play it back, know in your head, like, I made that.
Right. Good. When did you like first stumble upon sort of the music, encompassing this community? Or maybe, when did you stumble upon it and realize that there was some potential there?
I came about it in late 2017, or mid or late 2017. I found it was some mix on YouTube. I feel like, how most people find this stuff. The one in there that caught my eye was Emil's Mega, and that then led me down the rabbit hole of, you find Holmes music, digging into that. I think FM84 I found earlier in the year, but is, tangentially related to this stuff. And then Allison started releasing songs, and I really just started following that Electronic Gems sound, and there's something about it that felt, I don't know, you listen to it and you're like, I could do that. It's
approachable.
Not to, yeah, exactly.
Right.
It had the same vibe as when I was a kid learning to play guitar. You can listen to a Black Sabbath song and you're like, I could play that. It's the riffs, the structure, it wasn't unapproachable. So it kind of had that similar vibe to me. It wasn't some large overproduced. It was like leaning into that lo-fi quality. It just all sounded doable to me. And then, you know, that coupled with the vibe it created, and it really connected with me. And that's kind of where the that interest started.
And so, what was your first maybe public track that you were okay with other people listening to?
The first thing I put on SoundCloud was the song Wave, which was really the first time I even tried to make kind of a synth wavy style track. You know, after a few months of listening to some of these songs, I had been messing around with a lot of, you know, ambient shit, just, you know, all over the place really. But with that one, I kind of sat down and said, hey, I want to write a song. I sketched out a structure and just tried to keep it as simple as possible. And when I finished it, it was like, all right, this is decent. If a friend of mine, that was the bar for me, was like, if a friend of mine heard this, I'd be all right with, you know, saying like, hey, I made this.
That's a good bar to set. I personally made a lot of stuff that was like way below that bar, and I eventually took it down. But it's good to know like what's okay to put up there. So you had that track out. When did you first see that people were responding positively to your music, and people that you didn't even know were listening and enjoying it?
It was actually that song. It was, you know, it was a couple plays here or there. But I think it was like Allison reposted it, and I like woke up the next day and, you know, had a few hundred plays, which to me was fucking mind blowing. And you know, you start getting some comments. You're like, oh, I kind of, you know, I did something that other people like. Just getting that small amount of reception to it, and it was tiny. You know, it was a very small number of people listening to it, but it felt pretty good. And gave me a vote of confidence. Like, okay, I'll keep pursuing this. You know, if that didn't happen, who knows if I would have kept going with it. So
you continued on that path, and I know that one of my favorite tracks that you've made was Odyssey. I think that's an earlier one, if I'm right.
Yeah, that was like the third song.
Right.
There was one in between that was just kind of, I don't know. I might have taken it down, but that was the third one I would say put out there.
And that one was uploaded to Electronic Gems?
Yeah, for sure.
Was that your first one on EG?
Yeah. And it was kind of the first one where I think a lot of people have, at least in the little community, have done this of making a song trying to get on that channel, like saying what the hell meets the criteria, what's out there. I kind of set out to figure out that more lo-fi sound with that song. It was kind of it was kind of on purpose in a way. I wanted to get on the channel. I wanted to figure out how to do this lo-fi thing. And yeah, I got pretty lucky.
Right. Yeah, I mean, as we can see today, for sure. So this might be, just speculation, but I feel like, you began down the rabbit hole of this sort of ChillSynth music, Electronic Gems music, and it was sort of just trying to capture the vibe of it at first. But I think artists that do that, I mean, there's a lot in this community that I think show that once they start doing that, they start developing, and it's a good entry way into maybe making your own unique sound or I definitely think it is. It was for me. I think at least figuring out the process of writing the songs with the the structure, the sounds, and getting that down for the one, which I don't know, really jumpstarts you for the next few. And I think the further you get into it, the more of your own voice gradually starts coming out of that. As you're once you stop mimicking and you're just doing, it's just part of your process. This is just how I write. This is how I do my sound design. And then I think your voice gradually rises to the top out of that. and you've definitely come a long way, no doubt.
Yeah.
So when you come up with like a little idea, and a lot of little ideas, get thrown away, but how do you sort of work out that idea and make it into something that you're proud of? How does your process work in that way?
It's been kind of different for each song. I think some, especially early on, things were coming out of experimentation, just kind of spending a night in, messing around with some different, find a good patch and sound for some chords, lay that down, and just trying to build off of that. You turn it into a loop, with a little groove to it, and I started messing around with some melodies, and there's just something about it at some point in that process, if I can listen, just kind of loop that and be into that 8 or 16 bar, whatever it is, loop, and kind of vibe with it at that point, then it's like, all right, let me pursue this, sketch it out into a full track. What do I think the structure would be, just to get out of the loop and start working that way. I've made a bunch of other stuff though that never gets out of there. It's like there's just, I don't know, it's just not it doesn't connect with me enough for me to put the time in to taking it further than the loop or even short demo. I mean, I've come up with like written full songs that I thought were there, but by the end of it I'm like,
right. So with the tracks that you've released, there's sort of this make or break point where it's like, this song, I'm motivated enough to finish this song because it's actually, I can see a bright future for this track. It's sort of like that point is what defines,
Yeah, and it is an odd thing to try and explain. It's just like, it's like when you're hearing a song, you're like, and you like it, you enjoy it, like that's a good track, but you can't always pinpoint. You can't point to one specific thing like that's why it's a good track, which makes it tough. Sometimes you just don't figure it out till further down the road.
Another one of my favorites from you is "Wander Through Me." It just, I don't know, it just gets me every time. It's like the feels. If you know.
No, yeah, I feel you. That one, I was pretty happy with that one. I feel like I really wanted to do something different. Even it was, like I said, still that was one that came out of experimenting. I think I just gotten what delay is it? Echo Boy. So it's space echo sound. Got a nice little chord progression going. Thought about making it an ambient track, but this is actually where I was at the gym that one day listening to Counterparts at the gym, and they got the song "Haunt Me," which is actually where the title "Wander Through Me" comes from. It's just a small line in the chorus of that track. But I didn't know what to do with the song, but I was listening to that Counterparts track, and they just got like the energy that I realized the energy the drums are providing in that is something that I figured, like, all right, drum machines aren't going to capture this. If you really want to kind of push this song through to some kind of climax at the end of what I envision, it's kind of a little more post-rock influence in there. It's kind of where I got that idea for, to fuck around with those live drum sounds. Obviously, it's all programmed in, but kind of take it in that direction.
Yeah, that honestly is one of the best parts of that song. It's like, and I can see how it started out ambient, but the drums and they're in the acoustic style, and it's one of those. I know there's other sort of ChillSynth tracks like it, and it's just like, the powerful drums and it's also the spaciness, which is really what defines it as a ChillSynth track. And the chord progression really is what gets me in that one.
Yeah, thanks. I was really happy with the that was one where once I got down the road, I got the drums in there. That was one that's like, okay, I think I got something here. I was really excited about getting that one out there. It felt really different than what everyone else was doing, at least at the time. Pulling in the drum sounds. It felt to me like it was going to stand out a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the high points of your Figments album. And it's good. I think it's good to like push the boundaries. I think it's good that we're cultivating a community here in ChillSynth. But I want to also encourage people that are maybe not as large as people in the crew member role or featured on Electronic Gems to experiment a little bit after they enter the doorway into ChillSynth, right? Because that's how you started. You started with I just discovered this awesome genre, and people, and then they eventually get used to it, and they're like, what else can I do, right? So
yeah, and like take this. There's some groundwork there, and it's all about trying to take that. You learn some of the basics yourself of what when you hear these songs, what makes that vibe, what is giving it that special quality that you connect with, and once you kind of figure out how to at least achieve that quality, just that core, then I would encourage everyone to start branching out and how to maintain that, the soul of that the style or vibe, and approach it in a different way.
Right. And the reason I bring it up is because I'm kind of afraid of the sound dying, because some people that are just, let's say they're just fans of the music, they keep hearing, it's almost like they keep hearing the same thing every day,
Yeah.
But I'm hopeful. I hear differences, in Rose and Twig's latest album was phenomenal. And great example.
That was some beautiful work. You can really hear like his composing side meshing into his electronic project. A lot more ambient, very cinematic.
Yeah, and it's very cinematic. That's exactly what it is. And one of my favorite tracks on that was First Sunlight Through the Cloudy Morning is really good. That one I really like, and The Rocket Man's pretty good. I think those are really good, and I think those are good examples of pushing the boundaries in ChillSynth.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think that's going to be important to keep the whole kind of genre alive. If everyone just keeps trying to make Resonance 2, then what's the point, really? I think that seems to be a lot of people's entry point into it, and they just try and capture that one, but that's only one specific thing. Even in Holmes' discography, there are so many different sounds and feelings in different songs. Other than that, it's limiting in a way, I think, when some people just look at it as that. Right.
And I'm looking forward to the community just shifting a little bit in good directions, innovative directions, and I'm sure you want to be part of that as well, right?
Yeah, definitely. Right. I would definitely trying to continue to grow and develop my sound. I mean, that was what last year. I didn't put out a ton. I would say in most of 2019, like the summer and fall. It wasn't that I wasn't writing things, but it was just like felt like I was just retreading the same ground a lot and trying to figure out where do I was in a, I feel like I at least at that point got into a position where it's like, okay, I've done a lot of this bass work, I've built up some audience here, but how do I artistically keep moving it forward, so they don't get bored of the same shit, but also so I don't get bored of same sound, same vibe on every track. I wouldn't want that.
Right. And your latest release, I think there was a 3-track single.
Yeah.
It is a familiar Forhill sound, but what were you trying to do there specifically? Were you trying to push on the edge a little bit?
That one, so it really came out of, obviously Closer I wrote last year back in June. I wrote that in a weekend, and it ended up on that Stratford compilation. But I really liked that. I felt like it was one of my better produced tracks. So I found I kept kind of going back to that. Of like, I liked the flow, the structure, the sound, and I wanted to write an EP was kind of my goal. Not that I released it that way necessarily, but trying to basically take, okay, what sounds and vibes have I been doing, but how do I do them in kind of better produced. I would listen to some of my older stuff and find flaws left and right in the production. I mean, at that point, when I released most of my earlier stuff, I was only producing for like a year and a half. So in the last year, I've learned a lot, and I really just wanted to kind of put a bow on this kind of sound. How would I write some of these older things now, with kind of my current production abilities, package them together with some sort of sonic similarity between them. At least think of them as an EP when I'm writing, rather than just write 10 singles and then put it out as an album. I look back and there wasn't a ton of cohesion between tracks, so I really wanted to kind of just write it in that sort of way if I were to reapproach some of my earlier sound.
So is it safe to say that you were sort of working on your production skills more than music in 2019?
A little bit, yeah. I definitely tried to get better at mixing. I'd make loops, and I feel like some of these earlier tracks, if you open up the mix or the sound processing on some of these, it's a mess. I tried remastering a few songs for the cassette release, and I opened them up, and even 6 months later I was like, what the fuck was I doing? Yeah. And later on I found like, okay, I'm able to get this sound without making it some absolute shit show of saturation and compression, and try more minimally achieve that. And Closer was the first one I felt like, okay, I can kind of get this while maintaining some clarity in the mix. So that was kind of a splitting point for me, where it's, okay, I want to try and write better,
I see.
Make it sound a little bit clearer, but still with that Forhill quality.
Right. So you're just kind of developing that and solidifying your mixing and production, and you might take that in a different direction now that you feel confident about that.
Yeah, I've been wanting to experiment a bit more. I just don't know where I'm going with it yet, but I do want to take a step forward. I think like Admo's stuff's been a great example of, with his EPs. I think there's a nice evolution he's showing there, and I just I'm looking forward to what's my next step. What do I want to start pulling in sonically, songwriting wise, and kind of evolve this a bit more than I have been. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's good to have that base and be super confident, and you can just with that toolbox of skills, you can confidently look forward and actually think about what you want to do instead of working on just the nitty-gritty details.
Yeah, exactly. I'm definitely more confident in my abilities now, and I think you made a good point. This Outlines little EP was kind of exactly that. Like, let's prove to myself that I can do this, in this fashion, where I can listen to it and be happy with that mix, happy with the master and everything, while still maintaining my sound. And now let's move forward.
Yep, really good launch pad to go off of. And it's good that you also have an audience. It's not your full-time job either, is it?
No, definitely not. This is
right.
really just a hobby.
Right, so no pressure.
No.
That's good.
No, yeah, I'm not, this isn't what's putting food on the table, so it's a low pressure gig still.
Right.
Any pressure just comes from myself.
Which it's not a bad thing. It's good to be critical of yourself and try to improve yourself. That's good.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's good in life, and why not apply the same rigor to your music? Right.
And I think that's a good lesson for anyone else in this community that's trying to be a little bit more serious about their work. Not necessarily, make it their job, but if they're just trying, if they really want to prove to themselves, I think it's a good lesson. I think if we start with that, we can actually make some progress in shifting and innovating the sound we have here in this community.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it also depends what people's goals are. If you're just making it for yourself, right, and you're putting it out there, and who gives a shit, then do what you want. If you are looking at it, though, you want to grow an audience and you would like to, take it to that next level, or at least try to, then it's worth putting some thought into, I think.
Right. Yeah, I definitely. Yeah, I think a lot of people.
Just not so much you suck the fun out of it.
Yeah, right.
Because that's easy to do too, right?
Yeah, if music isn't fun, then what's the point?
Yeah, right. You know, and you don't want to start feeling like a job,
right?
If it's not one.
And I think that even if it is your job, I think there's probably a balance to maintain to make it fun. I think there are probably some artists that are able to pull that off. I think Allison probably is pulling that off right now. I could be wrong, but to me it sounds like it.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. It's probably a weird balance. Because I mean, even when I was learning, it was, and even still now, there are times when I don't want to necessarily. I'm not in the mood to work on music, but I'll just push myself to, just open up Ableton and start fucking around with something. And sometimes you just gotta force yourself, I think, to do it. It's like, it's just to keep the skills growing. And some days I'll try that, and a half hour will go by just like not feeling it. I'll move on. But sometimes, just pushing yourself a little bit, you can get the ball rolling, and you find yourself, getting into it. Just, but it takes a little force at times. Well,
I really appreciate what you're doing. It's I'm gonna keep listening for as long as I'm still here. That's for sure. So yeah, good luck in your endeavors, and have fun, trying to push those boundaries.
Yeah, definitely. I got some stuff in the works right now that I think people will be into. We'll see how receptive everyone is to the things coming.
It's always good to have a surprise. I'm looking forward to everything you got in there.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, it's good to have you on the first artist interviews episode.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking forward to doing more of these. And I'm taking it slow, like I said, but I think it's, I don't think anyone else is doing this, at least with the artists in our community. So
yeah, it'll be nice to have a platform to, get some people's voices out there, look, a little peek behind the curtain.
Yeah. I am very busy, but I will make it happen. Don't worry.
Yeah, good luck with the whole project.
All right. Well, you have a good day.
Yeah, later, man.
All right, see ya. Did you enjoy that interview? If so, give it a thumbs up. I highly urge you to check out Forhill if you aren't familiar with him. I'll be putting his socials and SoundCloud and Spotify and all that stuff in the description. Definitely stay tuned for more of these interviews. They'll probably pop up on my channel maybe once a month or so. We're going to have some great artists on, so you won't want to miss it. All right, guys, take care.